For my 16th birthday, my dad bought me a camera. I got in a little bit of trouble the year before that there with the police and stuff like that. And it was during the 1981, during the hunger strike. A photography club started in the area by a photographer called Buzz Logan. He's the man who sort of introduced me to photography. And the idea was, at the time, in the short strand, because of redevelopment, was to train kids up like myself to go out and take photographs and record the area before redevelopment had changed the area completely, and that's what I did. That's how I started off. And it started off with the buildings of the area, the old Sirocco works, all the different places that were going to get knocked down, and then I started photographing the people there, and then I just mushroomed into this whole bit. I just captured the essence of the area. I love the fact that you could see something and then take a picture, then process the film, and then print it out, and I done that, sort of. The magic of the print coming up in the developer for the first time, it must get a lot of people hooked. This is magic. Hold on, what's happening here? And this thing just comes up, and geez, I want to do this. The main one, short strand in Bryson Street. My personal connection to that is that I was born in number 6 Bryson Street in 1966. In 1969, when I was 3-year-old, we were burned out of the house. Where our house stood, I have pictures of me with our house in the background, and where it stood is now the start of the Brighton Street Peace Line. So I have a personal, connection to the area, to the street, and that particular part of the street. When I was younger, I used to think about what life would have been like living there on Brighton Street in a nice big house, because it was a big house, and with a big family. And what a beautiful sight. You walk out your front door and there's a beautiful church grounds and a beautiful 19th century church. And then what would have been like living in a normal society as opposed to what I ended up growing up in. There's physical structures, sort of manifestations of long-held psychological boundaries, I feel like. Especially along here, along the Falls Road, Shankill Road, where people were living together uneasily since partition. After the pogroms of the 1920s, things sort of settled down until the political situation here exploded in 1969. The resultant sectarian violence gave way to numerous barricades along all the interfaces in Belfast. The British Army came along in 1969, and that was the start of the physical structures coming into place. In 1969, September 1969, the British Army General at the time famously declared that there would be a very temporary affair, and that there wouldn't be a Berlin Wall like that in this city, And at the time he could have been excused because no one had no idea how things were going to escalate in the coming years, and that these structures would proliferate all over the city to what we have now is a very polarised, divided city. My decision to start documenting the walls was to satisfy my own questions around what the peace lines were, what they meant, what they were about, how they came about. I look at the peace lines in the past, present, and I'm also looking at the future of what will happen to the walls in the coming years. It's a question I'm often asked. When do you think the peace lines will come down? And I have no answer for it. People call me pessimistic because I don't see them coming down, certainly not by 2023. What I'm trying to do is to get it into people's minds that they do exist, and that unless we talk about it and ask ourselves questions, and especially the young ones now, they should be asked, do you want to live in a divided society like this? And they're the ones that's going to have to come up with the answers. I think the walls will outlive me, to be honest. I just keep recording them, just photographing them until they go where I do. Oh, 94, yeah, there was a lot more optimism around. I remember the ceasefires coming along, and maybe things could change. Maybe we could see these walls coming down. The structures were starting to be put in place where you could actually think about that possibility. The first series of pictures were published in an exhibition catalogue by Belfast Exposed. The date was the 1st of September 1984 when the book was launched. in their gallery in King Street, and that was the day that the IRA called the first ceasefire. Just that on that particular day, and so that added to the feeling of optimism that things could change. But of course, things changed, but painfully slow, really, really agonisingly slow. Well, I wanted to shoot some on film. When you shoot on film, it's different. It's completely, especially when you use a camera like that. It's a completely different way of taking photographs, and you take your time and you think about it more. That's why I like using large format, manual film. I still take time with digital, because one thing I don't do is just go mad. I don't go mad with the shutter. This first series from 1984, I remember you could get 12 exposure films, and a 36 exposure was a luxury. 36 exposure would sometimes sit in my camera for a couple of weeks. You learn a discipline that I still have to this day, where you're very careful before you press the shutter. It's important that people out there know that there's all the peace lines in Belfast are in working class areas. There's no peace lines up in the Malone Road, or might be big hedges, but there's no peace lines. People on the either side of the peace lines wouldn't normally get to see what's on the other side. But I suppose in one way, I'm filling that gap. That I'm letting people, see what it's like on the other side. They'll find that it's very similar. My new work is in colour. So if you want to see what the peace lines look in a wider scope, then refer back to the last three. But this new work I've seemed to have sort of concentrated on the structures themselves, looking close in at the materials used in the construction of sort of like materials of division, if you like. When I've moved in, I've seen there's an aesthetic built into the walls. They might all seem the same, but they're not. They're all different. They're all made of different colours, different materials. Some concrete, some steel, some mixture of both. A lot of them now are overgrown with vegetation. This project needed colour. If I wanted to convey sort of the passing of time and stasis, then colour can do it, unlike black and white.